So, welcome back. Our little jovial conversation kind of kicked this off. I think um, we everybody knows each other, but maybe we could just kind of quickly say hi again. And if there's something really neat about, I did this with a group that I have that I'm working with down in Delaware, and it was kind of nice to have it because it was quarterly, just to pick one thing. Somebody also called it a brag and steal. So if nothing big in deal, but if there's something that's going on in your neck of the woods, that in your agency, that we all as a regional, since this is a regional meeting, could talk a little bit about, I would love to hear it. So I'm Pat Dowse, and working under the auspices of MACNY, and consultant to this project in regards to keeping that bridge built between manufacturing, thanks to my dear friend Martha. And we've got really good news. So I'm not going to tell you anything because ours is all in the agenda. So that was unfair. But and nonetheless, oh, actually, we got some snow today. So, but we'll Albany is like, it's been snow less. So thanks, Lindsay, for putting up the snowflakes. It made me think about how pretty it is outside right now. Marilee, you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll just kind of walk. I'll call on people to walk around the thing quick.
Good morning, everybody. Marilee Boylan. I'm the Director of Employment Programs for Strong Center for Developmental Disabilities. Thanks for joining us this morning. Yeah, I'm really glad that it snowed as well. We'll have news too to share with you a little bit later on. And that's
Brandy.
I'm Brandy Solomon, Employment Project Coordinator for the Strong Center for Developmental Disabilities with the U of R. I am not glad it snowed, but I'm glad that I don't have to touch it right now. So
you got to go someplace south, didn't you? Well, thanks to the project or with the Strong Center, weren't you someplace warm recently that you maybe could tell people about?
EC was warm.
Okay.
It wasn't south.
Oh, okay. Good enough. Martha.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Martha Ponji. I'm the Director of Apprenticeships for the National Institutes for Innovation and Technology, but act as a consultant to this project. Really excited to see everybody here, and we have such great news. I did not get snow this morning. I moved out of the snow belt last year, and I have not seen snow yet. I have to tell you, I miss it in my heart, but not in my hands, my toes, my feet, the end of my nose, all those things that would be freezing today.
Okay, guys, I started this with snow, but I wasn't really looking for that brag and steal. I apologize. So, good enough. Miss Kimberly.
Good morning, everybody. Kimberly Berg from the Council on Developmental Disabilities. Good to see everybody.
Ooh, and that's an announcement in of itself. You want to share people with why you're calling yourself the council?
Yes, so we recently went through a name change. We were the Developmental Disabilities Planning Council, DDPC. We have now changed to CDD, or the Council on Developmental Disabilities. It sounds minor, but most of the other councils in most other states got rid of the planning years ago. So now we are in more lockstep with our sister councils in other states.
Perfect. Thank you. Kira.
Good morning. I'm Kira Topaski, and I'm also with CDD and enjoying your meeting. Thank you.
Okay, easy go. Mr. Kozlow.
Yes, good morning. My name is Lee Kozlow with Rochester Works. At Rochester Works, we've been switching over to a little bit more of a focus on job retention and helping the working poor to advance in their careers, helping businesses to retain and advance their workforce. And so one of the things that we have coming soon is an incumbent worker training program. That's dollars for businesses to train their existing employees with the idea that the training would be needed either to avoid a layoff or to advance their workers into more skilled positions. So more to come on that, but we're excited that that will be starting up.
That's awesome. Okay. And tag to Lindsay, so we keep it all in the family there. Miss Lindsay.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Lindsay Murphy, Disability Resource Coordinator at Rochester Works, covering Monroe County. I'm gonna kind of tag team with Jen. We've been talking since we're talking regionally here. We're starting to plan regionally for our upcoming spring series for businesses. So we did a successful one this past year, and looking to do it again in the spring and pull in the DRC from Finger Lakes. So we're gonna make it
Wonderful.
a larger event.
Good. Okay. Well, that's tagged to Jennifer then. Go, Miss Geiger.
All right, so good morning, everyone. Jen Geiger from Access VR. I'm the business relations representative. So we are doing lots of partnerships across sort of regionally, and like Lindsay said, we are collaborating with Rochester Works, with the DRCs on regional projects. We also have some mentoring days that we are planning for 2024 with some businesses. So some exciting things happening. I know it's hard to think 2024, but that planner is already getting filled up. And Mary Lee, I know you've pulled me in. And so love all these partnerships that Access VR has with many people on this this meeting on other junctions, right?
Mm-hmm. Coolly cool. Tag to Judy.
Good morning, I'm Judy Honan. I'm the Director of Counseling at Access VR, and thank you for the invite to the meeting. I'm here today because our District Office Manager, EDR Lucas, is retiring.
And you're wonderful at what you do, woman. It's not just because she's retiring that you've been invited to the meeting. It's okay.
Thank you.
I think it's pronounced Kayla Davidson from Monroe.
Kate.
Oh, it's Kate. Oh, Kate. That's my eyes. It came up as an L. I apologize, girl.
No
Sorry.
problem. Kate Davidson, I'm Senior Director of Job Path at the Arc of Monroe. We are just really busy over here getting ready for our new access contract and our new OPWDD ADM. So that's where all of our focus is today.
Policy.
Yes.
That makes the world go round. Mr. Turner.
Sorry, didn't unmute. Hi, Rich Turner, Director of Workforce Development and Apprenticeship Programs for Rochester Technology and Manufacturing Association.
Anything to brag about?
We recently did a Women in Manufacturing Summit as part of National Apprenticeship Week a couple weeks ago. And, we capped the registration at 75, which was sold out. But to our delight, we had over 100 young women show up in person and another 60 or so virtually. So, good problem to have. But luckily, the space that we had an overflow room where we put the teachers in the overflow room and kept the students in the main room to hear from our panel.
Wow, how exciting.
That's amazing.
So exciting.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Cool. Go women. And last but not least, Bill Hall.
Good morning, everybody. Bill Hall, New York State Commission for the Blind. All of our energy, unfortunately, is being focused on a brand new case management system. So we're trying to migrate all of the information from the old system into the new system, and nothing other than that new to report.
We understand your pain, Bill. We were there, so we understand and feel it.
Well, but all of that from the rehab, all of that's very valuable because I can share with you that the state itself is still working on, what the future will be for the state's Olmstead plan. And while you guys get all that stuff worked out, then when the call comes for the data that will be necessary, because no plan for inclusion wouldn't include that, you'll be ready. So that'll be good. So thank you all for that little bit of brag. And we want to just jump right in. I'm going to turn it back over to Brandy, who's going to walk us through the updates from the project. And we have, of course, Mary Lee loves and Brandy love PowerPoints. So we have a little PowerPoint show to add this to. This is a bit of our brag now. Okay, go ahead, Brandy.
Good morning and happy holiday season to everybody. So yes, thank you for joining our Rochester Regional Advisory Meeting for Advance to Apprenticeship. And Mary Lee, if you want to take the next slide.
Just to recap for those who are newer to us, that our goal for Advance to Apprenticeship is to improve access to apprenticeship work for people who identify with having an intellectual and developmental disability through a pilot focusing on the career pathway in manufacturing. We're pushing in skills and information so that business and CTE post-secondary schools have the tools needed to support people with disabilities and succeed in learning. We're really focused on the pre-apprenticeship part. So it's really meant to be exploratory for students so they can try out a career pathway, see if it's the right fit for them. It's also meant to build entry-level skills. And it really enables students to enter at a base level in high demand careers.
So, that's out of order. I might have to drive.
Yeah.
I'll grab it, Marilee, if you stop sharing. Because I don't. Oh, it's out of order. Technical difficulties. Well, hold, please. All right. So yes, we will be at the Center for Workforce Development here in Rochester, New York. Recruitment and enrollment is happening right now. So we've been recruiting all fall long, and we're like in our crunch time recruitment right now, because if there was a applicant, a candidate who wanted to tap into funding through Access VR or Rochester Works, that would need to be happening right now, in addition to the TABE assessment that would be needed as well, that I'll talk about a little more. But those classes that we are pushing into at the Center for Workforce Development are machining, industrial operator, welding, and we at this time have 3 applicants for welding who are pending their TABE assessment to determine their admission status. So like I said, we are working to enroll more students. So I'll probably say that a few times during this presentation, because I want to really get everyone's mind churning with there's any additional people that you may think of, or maybe you've sent them the message out before about Advanced to Apprenticeship through CWD. This is a good time to send it again, almost like that all aboard, last call. Let's, really rally anyone else who may be interested in this, because my biggest concern is for a person to be like, oh my goodness, I could have did it and I didn't know. So we're really just trying to continue to push that information out there. So the classes are machining, welding, and industrial operator. Welding is an 18-week course, and it does have the highest tuition point. But like I said, there could be local grants and scholarships available based on a person's eligibility and the need, and of course the timing of applying. When it comes to machining and industrial operator, both of those are 15-week classes. And right now there's a promotion on industrial operator because of the great need for increasing candidates in that field. So there's a possibility that it can be free through some of the additional grants that the Center for Workforce Development has. And then, of course, all 3 of these courses are starting in February, which it's right around the corner. And we've been pretty busy. So this is just a brief recap of some of the activities and presentations that we've been involved in. We were able to take Advanced to Apprenticeship to Albany and present to the New York Alliance Conference, making sure that the people who are care coordinators and fiduciaries and brokers really were able to hear about this program on this side. So if they did have someone, not only could they promote it, but if they also had someone asking to be a part of it, they already had that base ground knowledge. We've been presenting to service providers like DePaul and JobPath. We presented at the Rochester District Office Access VR meeting for the vocational rehabilitation counselors, and we have gotten some referrals through them. So that's been great. Resource fairs, care coordination day with person-centered, autism up, transition teachers, virtual information sessions, open house, preview days, you name it. We've done as much as we can to get in front of families and potential participants, but we want to do more. If you know of other groups of us getting in front of at any time, please let us know. So upcoming, we have another preview day. The preview day is a new concept that we were able to introduce to the Center for Workforce Development, which is all about allowing a person to get exposure to the actual classroom setting before classes start. So they have that opportunity to really determine for themselves if this is a good fit. We are doing that in machining and welding because with industrial operator being a new course being offered in the spring, they don't have a class for us to sit in on, but we do have videos for interested participants to be able to show them an idea of what that role can look like for that career path. In January, we're going to be hosting business networking with Delmonico's with Rochester Technology Manufacturing Association to make sure that our business community, our manufacturers are not only aware of advanced apprenticeship, but are able to tap into the different training opportunities that we'll have for them around embracing greater diversity in the workplace, understanding neurodiversity and accommodations. And in February, we're also going to have our instructor neurodiversity training with the instructors at the Center for Workforce Development to make sure they're getting those baseline understanding of diverse learners and also that universal design learning training. So talking about that process at the Center for Workforce Development.
Brandy, could I interrupt on just that there's a tag question that came up from Lindsay. Lindsay, do you want to ask the questions for the good of the whole in case they hadn't looked at the chat?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I know there's been a lot of emphasis on neurodiversity training, so I was wondering if it's going to be just focused on that or other types of disabilities as well.
So it's interesting you brought this up because we've actually got this question a few times, I feel like this week already, where yes, our primary focus is IDD, but of course we are open to people of all, whether they have a disability or not, whether it is with mental health or different physical disabilities are able to be a part of this. Gearing the training is something that our team is going to take back and really look at, okay, how can we add to the training we have and really touch on these points, because it does keep coming up to make sure that people know a person with disabilities all the way around is what we want you to be considering as candidates in your for employees as a part of your diversity and inclusion efforts. But at the same time, the other challenges that may be around somebody that has a mental health or even recidivism, because that is something that we are working with in the Mohawk Valley area. People, previously incarcerated. So making sure that whoever that candidate looks like and whatever their diverse background is considered as a potential applicant is definitely what we are beating the horn and the drum for our employers. So thank you for bringing that up. That is something that we definitely will be adding to our trainings.
So as advisors, I mean, we start this, right? And then, but one of the reasons we have advisory committee meetings is to encourage these kind of questions, but also if you're familiar or know of a trainer in your region that does it well, Lindsay, you know what I mean? If you've got something in the hopper already, you've got something on the shelf or someone that we could work with, please let us know. I mean, it's not, you don't have to engage them, but if you want to just refer them to us so that we can figure out how to make a bigger package that looks broader and whatnot. I mean, one of the things I was considering was I've talked to Mayor Leah Brandy, and this is what I drive them crazy with, but the idea of independent living. And where is that voice for independent living in this conversation? Yesterday, we had the pleasure of presenting to the State Rehab Council, and quite a number of people who sit on the council right now are representatives from the independent living world of things. And they were asking those broad questions the way Brandy was just kind of summarizing. And it made me think that maybe for the next round of what we're doing, we look at how we bridge to them to make sure that we're capturing all that needs to be said and done. So, but if you guys have any suggestions, you've used people before that are really good at giving that overall summary to a business model, Jen, or something, like, please let us know who we should be using. We don't need to recreate this. Let's reinforce what already is known as the best in Rochester for this, and perhaps for the rest of the state as well. We would appreciate that.
And then Pat, just to kind of add, so Brandy and I, we're going to be brainstorming for the presentation for February. But again, just looking at Access VR as a whole, because we obviously, work with all disabilities. So I know that when I do sort of the presentation component to businesses, it's going to be, tapping into other disabilities, not just intellectual disabilities, because
Right.
again, we want to look at our target audience, which is the business, and there probably are, and as we all know, already employees working in companies that have disabilities, or even to Lee's point, we know how important worker retention services are. And so we want to not only educate the businesses about individuals with disabilities, but really be that resource for businesses to know, like, hey, all right, they don't just work with people with intellectual disabilities. There are resources if someone is experiencing some symptoms of depression and needs that business has those go-to people.
Or someone had a major physical health change that can create a disability. I mean, we always seem to, forgive us all, but we always seem to tag DD, MH, substance use, but there's physical health disabilities that become reasonable reasons to change things up at work. So yes, being able to look at that whole incorporation, I think, is going to be invaluable for the continuation of A2A. So
Pat,
thanks.
real quick, just two more pieces to dive into. When we think about neurodiversity in general, we're not specifying autism, even though that term has been kind of adopted by the autism community. I think we look at that as a little more broad, as a spectrum of people who have different learning styles. So it could be somebody with ADD or hyperactivity, or, I think we're looking at that more broadly. The other thing is that we are offering one-on-one coaching for the teachers. So as the teachers are working with students, and if they're struggling in different areas, then we will offer consultation with them to help them through those pieces. So just to expand.
No, that's a good clarification. And I think that's the other, we're doing some myth busting too. Then what you're suggesting, Marilee, is that we as a system, as a world, sometimes we glom onto terms and or letters or whatever, but what's behind that is, again, the emphasis of this entire program that I saw resonate yesterday was the universality, the ability to make sure that everyone is counted for their abilities, not based on what their disabilities are. So that's the emphasis that we're trying to make happen in our next round of marketing. So, and to tell you more about that, go ahead, Brandy, go to the next slide here.
So we have our enrollment process that we have been that I've been communicating with families and potential participants about, making sure that if they have that interest, we're getting them to complete the interest application to start the conversation. The reason I kind of have this graphic in a circle is because everything is happening simultaneously. It's not, step 1, step 2, step 3. Like, while you're completing the interest application for advanced to apprenticeship, there's also the contact card form that is located on the Center for Workforce Development website that they require in order to get the process started with their student services enrollers. They are the ones who then send the link over to get scheduled for that TABE assessment, which is that adult basic education indicator that helps the center to determine the admission status. If a person is able to score well enough for the course that they're interested in to go straight in for standard admissions, then we're able to support them with that. If it is determined that they would maybe benefit from some support classes while taking the technical class, there's support for that within reading and math. And if the indicator of the TABE demonstrates that a person really should focus on those support classes before taking the trade course, then it will say that too. So there's 3 different admission status. And the thing that I think is so critical for people to know is to give it a try. It's not meant to be a scary test exam. It's just an indicator to show where the support level may need to be for a person. And if they never took it, then they won't know. And we really want them to be able to know where that support need is so that we can help them wrap those supports around and be successful in the class. So from there, also a person is being enrolled with Rochester Works, being able to work with Lindsay as the disability resource coordinator and or a career advisor, as well as being connected into Access VR if that's appropriate, or continuing the conversation with Access if they're already connected. And I talked about that funding piece. If a person does need to tap into grant funding, like right now is that crunch time for application and assessment so that they can potentially be eligible to have those funds. And with classes starting in February, that's why crunch time is right now, because of course, everything takes some time. The person needs to be enrolled and have the application done for the grants to potentially be able to tap into them. So Pat, do you want to talk about our systems impact?
Yeah, so this was thank you. We're taking credit, whether or not we really deserve all of it. We are indeed accepting the role to be the first direct entry program for people with disabilities. In month of October, Commissioner Reardon announced that the state would be advancing a new direct entry eligibility process specifically for people with disabilities. Direct entry, many of you I hope know, but if not, our that's the apprenticeship preparation program design that New York uses. We talk a lot about pre-apprenticeship, but reality is that New York likes referring to them as direct entry to really target certain populations. We already have an eligibility criteria, an eligibility category for veterans, minorities, and women. And we are excited that people with disabilities are now being added to the mix. Fortunately, though, we are also, as MACNY, in the registration process, looking at making sure that all people, all of our programs actually carry the disability category, if you will. So it won't be a direct entry program just for people with disabilities, because that would be somewhat segregating. And that's not what we're all about. We're about inclusivity. So we'll be looking at working with other programs who probably already have the ability to check boxes that say that, although I'm working with, like in Real Life Rosie's, women, and only women in that project, if any of those women would attest to a person being a person with a disability, we can work that. Now we get to keep that data as well. For veterans, I think we also easily see that possibility is there. What is direct entry? And that's the exact description of what apprenticeship is. It has to have these following components. It has to be able to demonstrate industry overview and a recognition of basic skill discovery. We have to look at providing people the support in life skills, time management, team skills, but also being able to work independently. Obviously, job search is a part of this because they're anything, they're working to invite, and that's where the direct entry to apprenticeship, that concept of that word direct entry, is that we will also have businesses ready to accept our job seekers who are now students in our pre-apprenticeship process. And that's where Lindsay and VR come into play in supporting people to look at that job search piece, but also then looking at if indeed there's other supports that are necessary to keep them engaged. And I'd be intrigued, Lee, to learn a little bit more about what your incumbent worker piece is going to be, because maybe there's a way to tie it all together to what we're talking about in regards to the direct entry requirement of, the wraparound supports that have to happen. So once they get there, what else is labor going to be able to do? The businesses, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But here you see all the things on this slide. That's what we're up to. We're excited. MACNY, I'm saying I get to talk about this slide because it's MACNY who's going to be sponsoring it. Colleen is busy writing the application. I'm going to tease and say that's why she's not with us this morning. She's busy finishing the application. I don't know, but she's been running around. And then we used the week of Apprenticeship Week to Chris Pinheiro from Department of Labor announced it. So we're all excited about being the first, and we're excited to work with all of you in Rochester. Next slide.
All right, so talking about those businesses, we have our first cohort in Mohawk Valley Community College finishing up this week. So we're very excited that we were able to have 7 active students go through the basic manufacturing course there at Mohawk Valley. All of them were able to receive that OSHA 10 certification, which is a great portable certification to get them started on their OSHA journey within manufacturing. Our power skills instructor and a tutor that was built into the course did phenomenal in making sure that all of the guys were able to go through the different resume development and interview preparation and effective communication trainings. There was also some CNC technical exploration, and they were able to produce like their own little brass hammer, which was kind of cool. There was a tour at Riverhawk, which is a smaller manufacturer in Utica area, but they have international reach, and they come from an employee-owned philosophy, just really making sure that they have an inclusive environment. So interview day for all of our students out in Mohawk Valley was on Monday, and they were able to interview with 3 companies within Utica, Wolfspeed and Danfrost, and we're awaiting results of those interviews that occurred on that day, but the goal is employment for all of the students involved. Luckily, some of them already were able to obtain employment during the program, but there is also a continued education piece that is occurring with our guys. So there's 7 of them, and 4 of them have already registered for MVCC fast track programs. 3 of them going into robotics continuing education, which is a free week-long program that really is giving them more career exploration on top of the basic manufacturing experience that they just had. And another student is doing computer networking, so information technology, making sure that they're really getting a whole rounded experience. So next cohort, when it comes to Mohawk Valley, well, we're looking at enrolling in the spring of 2024, possibly late April. So the reason that we're pitching this is not only so you know what's going on the other side of our project, but also recruitment. So we're recruiting for Rochester, but also looking at having enrollment start in Mohawk Valley in April, means we're starting recruitment back up for our Mohawk Valley classes as well. All right, Pat.
We were also on the road quite a bit, as you heard earlier, November being the October was NADIUM, then November we had National Apprenticeship Month, and the actual week, the 13th through the 17th. I was excited to be able to join Martha in sharing our program at a national level to folks across the country. We just recently presented to the State Rehab Council. We have upcoming presentations to the Special Ed Committee for BOCES, and one of the tasks in our new funding request, the extension of funding, and I'll let Marilee talk more about that, but is to refocus some of our attention and energy around our middle school age kids and making sure that manufacturing is on that list of great opportunities to go to work at in that industry.
So that call to action, we have our need for marketing support with our advisors. Also, remembering the word of mouth, we have definitely been getting some great traction in just having conversations with folks and finding out that, oh, you have a nephew who is 19, that's at home, not doing much. Well, have they thought about manufacturing? So a reminder about that. Also, if there are different community fairs, we've been working closely with Jen and Lindsay and the different resource fairs that's happened in our community, but there may be smaller ones. Like there isn't a Proud Too Small that we are interested in being in front of to make sure that the good news is shared about advanced to apprenticeship, but overall pre-apprenticeship opportunities, which is becoming a lot more buzzworthy in our area, but we want it to be more than buzz. We want it to really be broken down into plain language for people to understand that this is an opportunity for career advancement for anybody who is interested in exploring the realm of apprenticeship. Marilee?
Jen just asked if we were attending high school resource events. We've been doing a lot of presentations to BOCES. So we've been going to each of the BOCES leadership meetings and presenting there. That's been our target. Okay, so you already know about the name change for the Council on Developmental Disabilities, but we did want to share with you the good news. They did extend our funding for 2 additional years. We will go into trying to expand on our pipeline of students. So we are going to do some outreach into 14 and 15-year-olds. We will be doing any adjustments. So this is a pilot. So obviously we're going to learn a lot out of these first cohorts, make the adjustments, and then apply them to the next courses. We'll also be, there's a lot of discussion about accessibility and apprenticeships. We would like to host a conversation with the people around the state who are doing this work and see if it's worthwhile to build a collaborative that gets together on a regular basis and maybe pushes on some things collectively. If we have common successes or common barriers, maybe we need to work on together. So there'll be more information coming there. Also, we'll in our work, we need to gather lots of data and report out on it. We will be sending you a demographic survey that's of course optional, but if you would take the time to fill it out, if that's something you're interested in, we'll be sending that out with you with a recording of this meeting as well.
All right, Pat.
So here's the final pitch, guys. We, believe it or not, we've been doing this for 3 years. How time flies when you're having fun and making a systems impact as we have. Truly, thank you very much for the commitment you've made, but we recognize that everybody's got a very, very busy schedule, as we were teasing in regards to the beginning conversation. But I will be allowing you to recommit if you want to, or not, or bring on some other folks from Rochester. I think one of the things that we've definitely seen needed is a more inclusive committee as well. So we have a great representation from the disability services end of things here on purpose. But if we are trying to create true inclusivity, then Lindsay and Lee, who else should we maybe invite from the business world to be an advisor around pre-apprenticeship, direct entry, and apprenticeship? Rich, you know, is there some business or two that we might want to engage because they seem to be a leader in your manufacturing world that is getting the idea of DEIA, and you want them to be able to access some of these folks a little bit easier, and it's a win-win all the way around. So we're asking for your recommitment or not, and then maybe passing it along to someone else, or other people that, like as Marilee was talking about regarding, you know, the conversation around accessibility in general. Could they be a value added to our advisory team here for the Rochester region and beyond? Because what works in Rochester, in my experience of 30 plus years, typically sends to like his seeds here, and then it spreads across the state. Truly, most of the stuff that I've watched in my career has been generated through an interest or an opportunity or an actual program that started in Rochester and now is happening in other places in the state. So I celebrate what goes on in Rochester. So this is just a pitch to have y'all stick with us, or if as it comes down to a retirement, as Judy indicated, you get to join us. But if there's other people that we think could add value to this advisory component around supporting apprenticeship, it's only going to grow in New York. It's growing on a national basis, right, Martha? And this was going to be my shot to let you, if you're, I think you're still there, is to talk a little bit about what is happening on a national level and might we have to pay attention to, if you wouldn't mind. I probably caught her off guard. She didn't
No,
know I was
I'm
gonna
here.
talk to her. I know, but I caught you off guard, but I know you.
Yeah, that's all right.
go
And
on
you
the
have to then go back and find your mute and stop video and all those good things. Um, just to let you know, there is a big push nationally for the advanced manufacturing community to diversify their workforce. And while they have done a good job at attracting, individuals of color or otherwise underrepresented communities, they have not had a real focus on the disability community, and they know that they need to, and they know that employers are very open to utilizing the disabilities community as part of their gateway workforce talent pipeline. The real issue is, how do we get the word out? And the events like this one, the one that Pat participated in as well, are opportunities to share not only what we as a group are doing, but to really advertise the success that people are seeing. So I really am echoing with Pam, how do we get more people to come to these meetings so that we are able to share this message more broadly and really start to engage many more employers, employer partners, individuals from schools, things like that, so that we can make a very focused effort on expanding our reach and really engaging individuals to come into programs such as this.
Thanks. So that's your pitch, and that'll be a part of the minutes. We'll look forward to everybody saying yes or giving us suggestions for someone else from your own agency, and or then potentially other folks that you think you'd like to build a bridge if you're already working on it, or we need to use even the program just help you do what you need to do. Advisory capacity should go both ways. There should be value added to what your world is as well as the project. So we appreciate the 3 years you've given us. And if you're up for 2 more, sign on. We'll be happy to see you on the next quarterly meeting.
Pat, just one other quick thing I probably should have mentioned is in an effort to really broaden the reach, the USDOL has invested dollars. So very often, if there's someone that one of our organizations is supporting, but there needs to be, something else that could help support their ability to get to work, or tools, a tutor at a workforce. Very often, if we can associate that with pre-apprenticeship and/or apprenticeship, we are finding other pots of money to help employers and/or service providers to leverage existing funding and help grow it.
Excellent.
And Martha, I'd like to add too, even just with the Access VR space, we do have reimbursement opportunities for a business. So we do educate them not only on our work tryout or our on-the-job training, but there's also tax credits that are available for businesses as well. So I think those are some good added value that businesses can maximize.
Great point. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah,
great point.
The other thing I would like to ask of our colleagues at VR and CB is the issue of benefits advisement. I know Lindsay is trained as a benefits advisor too, as part of her realm as DRC, but with manufacturing jobs comes some significant salaries and wages, and the understanding how all that plays together with your own life and doing things differently when you've been living at this level, and now because of a job you get to live at this level. It's not just about money. It's not just about, it is about lifestyle. It's about a whole change in the way one approaches the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. And I'd encourage you all to think about, as we build these great bridges to successful careers, is the planning piece of benefits discussion really getting at how someone can change from living at being comfortable and succeeding because that's all they had, to now moving up here, and what does that mean in a lifestyle change? I've been a part of so many planning discussions where, you know, HR directors too were like, they don't want the wages. They can't accept that. We don't know what Medicaid buy-in is. And yet we have some tools to work on that stuff. So that's my challenge back to my colleagues from the rehab side to and benefit side to Lindsay at labor in regards to how are we talking about that to help the HR directors in businesses understand all of that stuff, because they are going to get asked those questions by individuals when they get hired, and we all know it quickly. They go, oh, I can't take that. I can only work this because I'm going to lose this. So if we gave our HR directors more ammunition around how to help them see their way through that process, we might also get to the place where more people will be involved in Rochester Works incumbent worker discussion because they stick around versus being fearful.
Right. I mean, that is a service. And I know, you know, we have our new RFP. So more to come because we don't know all of, well, I say, in terms of myself, all of the vendors that are approved, there's still lots of behind the scenes. So we don't have the final list. So going forward for 2024, yes, that still is a service that we will be providing, benefits advisement. And I know these are conversations that counselors have with our customers, looking at that benefits advisement piece sooner, not when you're going to start the job tomorrow,
Right.
and really being engaged in that process and looking at options, you know, whether people put together, you know, past plans or ABLE accounts. I mean, there's so many opportunities and options that, as we know, as in the field, that people aren't aware of. And so that's why, you know, yes, we do encourage and want people to get those services sooner, not later. In terms of the HR, you know, there's always sort of that sticky wicket, right? Because we know that some people do choose to disclose that they have a disability, some do not. So again, for those that do disclose, and if HR professionals have questions, you know, I would say, Lindsay, I'm going to tag you and you know, these are things that the two of us, yes, we're always wanting to be that resource. And I know all the conversations that we have with businesses. And I also know that the DOL business services team and the Rochester Works business services team, if they get questions, they circulate emails, and we're all working together as community partners. So I know that is happening. Is it with every business? No, but
No.
Again, every business that has questions, we would be a great resource, and we are open to those conversations.
Cool. We'll keep that in mind. As maybe Brandy, maybe we can even look at how we maybe make any of this part of the presentation at Delmonico's.
I was just going to add too, so I do a workshop every other month called Increase Your Income, and anybody can join that. So it could be a business, it could be a job seeker. It's all about disability benefits and the impact of working. So it's virtual, it's open, it's on Eventbrite. So I get people from all over the country that join it, honestly. So we can spread that too.
Awesome.
Lindsay, do you ever record those meetings?
They are not, our workshops are not recorded.
Okay.
But maybe we could invite you to do one just for us, and we record that so that it gets linked to the project, and then maybe you know, maybe we should just explore that, because I think what Martha's thinking is that it could go, right? You're thinking how could you spread that nationwide around those kinds of things? Yes or no? I mean, where you never ask for something unless you think you're going to use it for something. I know you.
Yeah,
Martha.
definitely. Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay, we'll talk. Cool. All right.
All right. Well, we kind of went right into our thoughts.
The obligatory question slide in a slide deck.
So,
but do you have any other thoughts for us around the, you know, what's happened in the 3 years? Maybe when we send out the minutes, we could also invite you to share, you know, the things you think we should be most proud of, and things that we should be talking to other people about, or that you need more information about too. We'll add that into the spectrum of what we're asking of you guys, because we have reports that we have to make to the CDD. So your thoughts are always encouraged and welcomed for us to be able to the things that we talk to them about, we have to report on are, you know, the things that we're proud of, but the things that are also challenging us, because the CDD has the ability, as others like Jen was talking about, and Lindsay, you were talking about, these are things that we have available to us. So if you feel that there's been something that wasn't represented, that wasn't talked about, that could be talked about more, this would be this moment to either hear, or when we send out the notes from today's meeting, to share back with us in writing. Hey, you know, Marilee, pay attention to this, or Brandy, that was cool when you talked about that, but maybe we could focus this a little bit more, as it relates to the Rochester region in particular, because there's things happening in Rochester, they're happening nowhere else, and we don't want to, you know, lose sight of that as well. This is a regional advisory group, so we appreciate your time and efforts. Okay.
So
we're
yes.
early. 5 minutes. We give you 5 minutes back for your Wednesday morning.
Awesome. Yes, and if there's any questions or any thoughts you think of later, anyone you know that may want to enroll or is just interested in learning more about the project, please feel free to share my information with them. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.